like Bill Maher is that flower.
Yeah.
It looks beautiful. It expresses these ideas, but it has no connection to what actually brought it to that point. A man who says he's an atheist, and more power to him, it's fine. Live how you want to live, I guess. But my point is, with that ideology, what that results in is abject chaos and the dissolution of social order. So this man, Bill Maher, who will go on TV and say, but I believe in free speech, but I believe in these things. He doesn't understand that the root ideology for which he was raised in is Christian moral structure.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Leftist Losers Show, where we point out all of the losers of the left. And today I got a clip from the Culture Wars show hosted by Tim Pool on the Tenet Media channel. They do this show every Friday, and he has on guests where they talk about the current situation with American society. And recently he had on Carl Benjamin of the Loaders Eaters podcast. And they kind of talked about, obviously, the culture war. And one of the points they brought up was, Bill Maher and people who kind of have the thought process of Bill Maher and fall into the same kind of open-minded camp that he does, and kind of why those types of people are the reason why our society is breaking apart and why we have so many bifurcations of our culture, and why that leads to social problems and the social fabric kind of degrading and breaking down. And I thought they made a lot of really fantastic points that I also kind of had some thoughts about, and I figured I would bring that to y'all's attention and make an episode about it. So we're gonna go ahead and jump right into this clip from the Culture Wars show with Tim Pool, and let me know as you guys are watching this what you guys think, and comment down below what your opinion on this as well.
Someone like Bill Maher is that flower.
Yeah.
It looks beautiful. It expresses these ideas, but it has no connection to what actually brought it to that point. A man who says he's an atheist, and more power to him, it's fine. Live how you want to live, I guess. But my point is, with that ideology, what that results in is abject chaos and the dissolution of social order. So this man, Bill Maher, who will go on TV and say, but I believe in free speech, but I believe in these things. He doesn't understand that the root ideology for which he was raised in is Christian moral structure.
Yeah.
On that point, he went and did a interview with our friends at Trigonometry, and he was celebrating the fact that London is now minority English. And what he doesn't understand, and this is an outgrowth of liberal philosophy as well, is that you can't have civilization in amber. You can't have values and principles dislocated from the peoples that formulated them, because they are the only ones who have enshrined those values in their hearts and minds. As de Maistre said, a constitution is just the codification of what the authors thought, and you can't make people live according to those things if they don't believe what it was originally there. And so all these principles that he advocates for, free speech and license to not be judged for being a pot-smoking degenerate, suddenly if you import millions of Islamic followers, Muslims, into Britain, those values go away. The constitution is changed. And so Bill Maher may well appeal to this, but under the rubric of liberalism, he is doing what Renaud Camus called the second career of Adolf Hitler. And that is, in the name of making a nation after the Second World War prove its anti-racist credentials and be open and free and tolerant to prevent the guard towers of Auschwitz from being reconstructed, he's actually imported the values of another country who doesn't believe in this and has the exact same thing happen all over again.
If I can...
Yeah, and that's a fantastic point, and that's kind of something I wanted to say as well. Like, you can see examples of this in our society. Like, look at the Second Amendment, right? The reality is that we have a ton of laws that completely infringe upon the Second Amendment, which is enshrined in the Constitution, and there's no reason for that, other than the fact that because our culture and our population don't put the pressure on the government to enforce and maintain the rules of the Constitution, it doesn't matter. It's just a piece of paper at the end of the day, right? If nobody has the confidence in that paper or that cultural outlining to enforce that culturally, I keep saying culture too much, it doesn't matter. Like, if cops show up at your house, right, and you don't believe in their institution or their government, then it might as well be somebody showing up in a clown outfit. Like, that's how society is completely functioning based on the culture, right? And I didn't put that very well, but my point is, if you don't have confidence in your government, it's not your government. It's just an overbearing, authoritarian outside force that's putting pressure on you and your family, right? So their point is that if you bring in a bunch of people who don't culturally align with you and don't have the same values and don't care about your form of government and your form of society, they're not going to integrate, and they're not going to help that society function. They're going to put pressure to actually change or tear down that system because they don't agree with it, because they come from a culture that thinks differently and wants something different. And that was his point, right? Bill Maher going and celebrating the fact that, the British are now a minority in their own nation is disgusting, because what that really means is over time, if that doesn't reverse itself or change, or those outside people who aren't British don't culturally integrate with the British are going to go away. Their culture is going to become extinct, or just a small subsect of the society, and Britain itself is going to become something completely different. Whatever the majority is in that country at this point, which I believe is like Islam. Sorry, I believe it'll become an Islamic country, right? And its culture will change, its government will change over time, and it'll become something completely different. And I don't think that people on the left who want to just bring people into countries, I don't think they realize. Maybe people in power realize that, but I don't think a lot of the people that vote for that kind of stuff realize that, because they don't care, right? They're thinking victimhood mentality. These people are victims. They come from poor countries that have a lot of problems. If we bring them here because society here is great, we're helping them and it's going to be fantastic. But the reality is they're making themselves victims, because they might think that way, but the people they're bringing in probably don't agree with that. And in fact, will probably want to exploit them. Maybe not literally, but the fact that they would change the government to benefit themselves and their community over the people who have already been here, that is kind of exploitation, right? Maybe like subverting, like a subversive way of exploitation, but it is exploitation in the long run, right?
And overly simplify that into a meme millennials would understand. It's Sideshow Bob stepping on the rake and smacking himself in the face over and over again and going...
So there are a couple of points there that I want to just pick up on as well. So first on the rational devils thing, what I hate about this kind of view is the prejudice against irrationality and the privileging of rationality. And I'm sure you've all read Jonathan Haidt, who pointed out, well, hang on a second, you're actually not very rational for very much of your day.
Most of the time you're not.
There we go, perfect.
I pulled up the Moral Foundations a while ago.
Perfect.
Jonathan
Haidt has proven, look, most of what you do is actually quite irrational, quite habitual, and it's only when you have to stop and think and deliberate very, very carefully that you become rational for a small period of time. So a society of rational devils would have to be rational quite a lot of the time. And so this social contract only holds until some guy who might not be terribly intelligent decides, you know what, I don't care. I'm not going to be rational, and I'm going to just attack that Asian grandma or something because I'm sick of these Asians in my neighborhood or something like that. So the social contract breaks down like that instantly because they've got no love for one another. Love is what prevents that from happening, right? So that's the problem with the Society of Rational Devils. Well, it only holds while they're 100% rational, and well, there are lots of people who aren't 100% rational any of the time. And there was a second thing that the immigration thing is particularly interesting, right? Because the most cultures would instinctively say, well, no, we're not going to bring in millions of people from a foreign culture. That's mad, because that would attack our own culture, the integrity of our culture, right? Most normal cultures would think that. But the liberals, the interesting thing about pre-social man is what you do is you create a kind of universal man, a kind of universal blank slate, because they point out, rightly so, that a lot of the way that we are is formed by the society in which we live, like your accents, the things you believe, the habits you have, the food you like to eat, the clothes you wear, the things you watch, the way that you think we should interact with other people. All of these things are socially conditioned into us. And so if you took someone from one society, a baby from one society, raise them in another society, they would have the social conditioning of that other society. But the problem is no person is ever raised outside of a society. So there's never a time where there is a universal blank slate man who can be presented as, oh, here we go, we're all just the same, really. So these people have got their own value system, they've got their own norms, they've got their own habits, they've got their own, what I think, really backwards belief around, intergender behaviors and things like that. And we're just bringing them in because we've assumed underneath all of that, they're just like us. And it's like, well, hey, there's no getting underneath all of that. That is what they are authentically to the core, because that's all they know of reality, and they're not like us.
Yeah, and if you take what he's saying and you apply that to everything that's going on the global scale, you'll start to see the breadcrumbs of what a lot of the global leaders, we'll call them globalists, right? Like if Alex Jones was here talking to you, he'd be screaming about the globalists are coming, blah, blah, blah. But well, he's not wrong, because a lot of the moves that our leaders and political people are making around the world, the liberal world order, is exactly what Carl Benjamin was just explaining, right? They are trying to break down cultures and turn them into universal, everyone's the exact same garbage, because what that allows them to do is then start running the globe as one entity, right? And if everyone on the planet had the same culture of agreeing with the Constitution and freedom of speech and freedom to own, the Second Amendment, all that kind of stuff, okay, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But of course, we as Americans think that, right? There's other cultures that think the completely opposite, like China, for instance, right? They're the exact opposite of us. They don't agree with a lot of that stuff. That's the problem. That's why you see this heavy DEI push all over the Western world, because they are desperately trying to break down the cultures of these countries so they can basically just control a larger area and more people and dominate resources around the globe and push their agendas without any pushback. And America is one of the biggest people, like, roadblocks for their movement, because we have so many rights as individuals, and that really hinders these globalists who want, world dominance. They want to control everything they possibly can so they can enact their agendas and their goals around the world. And us as individuals being able to do what we want and have rights, enshrined in our culture, thanks to the Constitution, we are heavily in their way. And especially with us being such a powerhouse on the global scale, it's a big problem. And so that's why I think you see the heavy DEI pushes. That's why, and again, not just for that reason, but also the DEI pushes then forces a lot of people who will just fall in line, like the Democratic Party, to then look at immigrants as victims. And anyone who judges the fact that they're just importing millions of people who aren't even aligned culturally with the society they're coming into, they'll look at them as victims and then shame anyone who says, well, we need to stop these people from coming in because they're a problem. And that's exactly what we see, right? Anytime anyone pushes against illegal immigration in the United States, they're deemed racist or whatever. They're attacked with is words. And it's sad because you can see it, right? You can see exactly what they're describing. They're trying to break down the culture. They're attacking anyone who's patriotic. They call them Hitler. They call them a fascist. They call them evil. But the reality is Americans are exceptional because of the culture that we created from the Christian values that we held when our forefathers came to this country and started settling it. Their cultural values of being Christians and being British and for other European countries allowed them to come up with the ideas that created the Constitution in the first place. Something that nowhere around the world has ever seen, these kind of rights being enshrined among its people and not its rulers. And they desperately want to destroy that because we are not the majority in the world. We are a very small minority in terms of our culture. And they are actively trying to get rid of this culture as much as they can and demonize it as much as they can because it is, like I said, the biggest roadblock to their agenda. It is. And that's why people like Alex Jones go on there and they're screaming all day and night about how we need to keep fighting back. And we do need to keep fighting back to keep our culture 100%. And this is the kind of stuff you should teach your kids. Not necessarily what I'm saying, but you should teach your kids about the Constitution, about patriotism, about America. Not because our flag's better than their flag and we should go kill them and, that kind of, crazy stuff. But teach them that our values are important because it has led to the greatest country in the world in terms of prosperity and in terms of ability to just live your life and do what you would like to do. And our government is actively trying to take that away as well because we keep getting these people in power that just want more and more government and more oversight at every turn. And it's going away. Sadly, it is. If we don't keep fighting back and pushing the American culture forward in terms of the Constitution and, the values of our forefathers, then it will go away. And eventually we will live in a globalist, society. So, and that's why I think the points they're making are fantastic because they're kind of outlining the strategy and the agenda of these global leaders who are looking to do this. And we need to be able to identify that stuff so we can call it out whenever it's seen.
Real quick, because the first point you made, sorry. Have you guys seen the meme about conditional hypotheticals?
Yeah.
So there's a 4chan post from someone who said that they
really
were
funny.
a psychology major or something to that effect that did experiments, and they said that low IQ people could not understand conditional hypotheticals.
Yeah.
They would ask a question: how would you have felt if you did not eat breakfast yesterday?
Tim, I did eat breakfast.
Exactly. And so now it's become a meme on X where when someone says something dumb, you respond with, how would you have felt if you didn't have breakfast yesterday? Low IQ people say, but I did.
Yeah.
Or they'd say, but I didn't. And you're like, no, but okay, so hypothetically, and they can't comprehend. In that post, it's actually a bit more elaborate. The individual goes on to say that they went to prisons and they spoke with violent offenders who had murdered, raped, or and robbed and things like this, maimed. And they asked them, how do you think the mother of the man you murdered felt when she found out you killed her son? And they go, huh?
I have a clip of this that we can
I don't
play
know.
if need be, because Ross Kemp went to South Africa and asked a bunch of rapists, admitted rapists, how do you feel about this? Do you not feel bad about this? And they kept saying, yeah, well, we might get the girl pregnant, so it might be a worry. And he went, no. Are you not concerned about the victim? They went,
I think I've seen this.
They might scream or they might give us AIDS. And he was no, she's not traumatized. And just blank expressions.
They don't have the ability to understand that other people experience life.
It's solipsism.
Right.
Empathy requires a certain level of intelligence.
Yes.
But the funny thing is, like,
Yeah, and so they're starting to get into other topics now, so I'm going to end the video there. But I just thought the points they were making regarding the cultural integration and kind of like, stuff going on with the immigration all over the Western world was very important, and I thought that it made a lot of sense and figured I would highlight this and bring it to you guys. So I hope you enjoyed this content, and if you did, please like and subscribe to the channel or comment down below what you think or kind of how you think I might be wrong. If you don't like this content, please tear me apart in the comments. I do just appreciate the engagement either way. And I will see you guys in the next video. So I hope you guys have a fantastic day.